Our prompt for today's podcast recording was inspiration and
Self-expression.
So that was it. Self-expression through creativity and how we express ourselves through a variety of different mediums. And I'm
Absolutely. I love that.
joined today by Michael. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Michael Teferi. I'm a poet, writer, positive psychology coach, and a debut poetry book author. And I've been here for the Skool communities for the past couple of weeks, and I've been enjoying it fully and connecting with people and networking with people like you, Zachary. And it's a pleasure to meet you again here.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining me for this wonderful conversation. I'm curious, what is important about expressing yourself through art, poetry, and whatever other mediums you do it in?
I do use a number of different mediums. One is the art of writing poetry. I've been doing that since March of 2025, and I love writing poetry and inspiring people, readily realizing boldly and acting collectively towards a strong sense of belonging with other people and connecting with people, and that's my passion of it. And I've been doing it for a while now. I'm coming up to next month. This coming month it'll be a year. So
Very nice. It is interesting to think about how people then connect with what we create, right? How we express ourselves.
hmm
'Cause admittedly, yeah, that's one of the reasons that I sort of do it, and why I express myself in the way that I do is to connect with people and
hmm
attract people that are interested. So what's one of your favorite connections you've made?
That's a good question. So I remember one time I was talking to one friend of mine during the Fawcett episode, and she was talking to me about my poetry, and she's a subscriber on my Substack. Her handle is Rocket Goth. That's what he uses for her Substack handle when he writes articles of her own too. And she's been advocating for me with my poetry, and she loves my poems actually, and she's been commenting a lot relatively recently over the past couple of months, and it's been very interesting. And she's been uh, talking to me about each of my poems over time and through life experience, and it's been it's been a hell of a beautiful opportunity to connect with her and to talk to her about the extent to which I've really delved deeper into my intuition.
Delving into your intuition, you say?
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I feel like I have a God-given gift to write poetry, and that's what my mother and my aunt used to talk to me about. Nowadays is my aunt who talks to me about my poems, and she actually I always send her my poems every so often, like during the week while she's at work, and she checks them out when she has the time when she's not too busy from work, and nowadays, she's been talking to me about my poems, and she always says they're fantastic or epic. Those are her direct words. Literally, that's exactly what she
Very
says.
nice.
Uh, yeah, I love that sentiment, that sentimentality that she has about my poems, and I appreciate it so much. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. Admittedly, my wife does poetry, but I haven't done any. But I'm always
Oh,
yeah, and she does great work.
nice!
Very good
Congratulations! I
poetry.
love fellow poets in action. I
Mhm.
respect that. That's awesome.
So I've been gaining a bit of an appreciation for it. And it is always such a nice feeling when you get sent a poem.
Yes.
What does it give you when you can make a poem and give it to someone and that fosters further connection?
That's a great question. So for me, I'd say that it really fosters creativity and human ingenuity, and it allows people to think about themselves in a brand new light. It's interesting how when you inspire people to in a way that promotes awareness and action and details of action, and it's a unique endeavor to really connect on a human level. I've been talking to a number of people who work here at the Birmingham Green Nursing Home. I show them my poems all the time during the week when they have opportunities to talk to their offices, and they love my poems every single time. They really appreciate my poetry. And one of them, his name is Dennis. He's a life enrichment manager here at the nursing home, and his area expertise is in English literature, and he went to college for that purpose. And so he talked a lot to me about my poetry and how it stands with my grammar and syntax, because I've done that in my past. And he talks about how I've really been able to showcase the awareness and the vision that I have with my poems. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned you work at a nursing home? It's interesting.
I reside in a nursing home.
Oh.
I have people who work here, but I reside here.
Oh.
I've been here since my aunt brought me here since in Natchez, Virginia, since summer of 2024. But the good thing is I'm doing a lot better.
Oh.
And yeah, I
That's
just
good to hear.
have a number of medical conditions, and that's the reason why I'm here.
Ah, I see. I understand. Makes sense. But yeah, you've made some good connections while you're there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember I spent like a bit of time in hospital, and you make some interesting connections while you're in those sorts of places.
Yeah, it's ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's an authentic group of people. You know what it is? That's what it is.
Absolutely. Authenticity is the right word, isn't it?
Hadn't thought about that till
you
just now.
authentic conversations with
Oh
people
yeah.
on a human level, and it makes it a big difference.
Oh yeah.
A world of difference, actually.
Yeah. And they're great conversations. They're so good.
Nice.
Do you have any questions?
I was wondering how things are going with your school community right now.
They're going very well. Actually, I had a very interesting serendipitous meeting yesterday where I've been doing networking calls and stuff, and I made a connection. We connected on the Aligned Entrepreneurs networking call, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So in one of those, like one of the first ones I was in, I connected with a guy. His name was Hank, and he wasn't really a school guy, but he was a big networking guy, and I connected with him, right?
Okay.
And he referred me to 3 different very interesting people.
Wow.
And I had meetings with 2 of them yesterday. This was like weeks later, because I just
Wow.
happened to schedule it for the next available time, right?
Nice.
Conversation. We're gonna have to collab and work together. It's gonna be great. But the second
Nice.
was this lady, Camilla, who runs a soul-aligned entrepreneurs community, right? Soulful entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
heart-driven, heart-led kind of stuff.
Nice.
I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And we got to talking. She's like, where are you at? And I'm like, I live in Boulder, Colorado. She's like, isn't that interesting? We're having a meeting with people on tonight in Boulder. Do you want to go and...
What are the chances of this happening?
Right? And I was like, that's very odd. I could bike there. It's that close. And I was like, huh. And she's like, well, it's also the first one that they're doing, but it's going to be monthly recurring.
Ooh, that's very interesting.
And they're sort of readjusting what they're doing and slightly changing things up. And this is one of the ambassadors is hosting this group from this larger online group, right? And they were expecting 4, maybe 5 people, and it was 10 people showed up there.
Nice.
And through that, I gained 2 new school members and connected with 2 of the guys that were there, and it was very interesting. One guy's a hypnotist, one guy is some kind of healer. Interesting thing. Very interesting people, and a whole bunch of them had a whole bunch of interesting. They were doing all kinds of interesting things.
Nice.
So I was like, oh, this is great, and I'm until right before I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna go. I don't know if I'm gonna go. I don't know. I don't go. I don't. And I was like, we've been leaning into the serendipity. It's like, what are the freaking odds? Okay, I gotta go.
It's a happy accident, right?
It is, and I'm like, it was very good. So it's just leaning into stuff like that has been powerful.
That's wonderful. Yeah, it sounds like these experience. That experience is powerful beyond measure. That's what pronounced personal philosophy of mine. When something is that interesting, yeah, that's epic.
I was like,
Congratulations.
I can't ignore that. I was like, oh, that seems important.
I love that. That's phenomenal. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was
Congratulations.
great. And
Make
so
sure to reconnect with them over time.
yeah, and I'm gonna go to next month's meeting if I can.
That sounds like a plan. Enjoy it fully.
Right.
That's my recommendation. Enjoy it fully.
And that's sort of what I'm trying to do with Skool is just like actually like I'm here because I want to do this and I enjoy it. Actually, that was sort of the struggle of last week was I started putting so much pressure on like, oh, I need to do it this way. I need it to be good. I need it to be And I'm like, wait a minute. Why are we doing this again? To have nice chats with interesting people.
Absolutely. That's the essence of character. The one where you just enjoy the process and connect with people and do it on a human level, and it resonates.
Mm-hmm.
I think it resonates rather quickly if you sometimes as well when you actually have a human connection and you're enjoying the process and you're talking with people. You're learning from and with each other actually, and that makes a big world of difference. And I know this. Like, I actually contacted with 3 people yesterday, due to 3 different school communities. Yeah, one is named Alicia, and she has a Christ Center school community, and I was joining a member recently, and that was pretty nice for her. We were talking on Google Meet, and she's in the U.S. too, and she's specifically in Texas, and she was talking to her about being a producer of a film project, and she's talking about that process and what that entails, and how she's been working with her husband, as he's the director of a film entity project that's what we're working on. They've been doing short films recently, and they're trying to create like 15 to 20-minute intervals lately, and that's pretty interesting to me. And I was intrigued, and she was talking to me about that, and it was interesting. And so she was very into my poetry, and how I talked to her as a guy giving gifts and things of that nature, and she was very appreciative and grateful about the sentimentality about it, and she was giving me some advice and input, and I was very grateful to her about it. It was very interesting to me, and she said we got the chance to go ahead and continue to be in touch and network with each other going forward. So I look forward to that. This is an example for me.
So how do you like keep up with people and keep in touch and like follow up with people? Because I find I struggle with that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm about to find out. That's the thing about me right now, because I just started.
I'm also figuring it out, so.
Yeah, I just started right now. What I want to do is I want to try and reconnect with someone every week through Skool. That's my plan of action, to reconnect every week and see how they're doing. If I don't hear from them first, they'll hear from me or something to that effect, and that's what I want to accomplish going forward. I want to try and do that, and I want to also make sure I do do networking calls. I had one this morning actually, so that was pretty good. I enjoyed it. That's just an example. That was pretty good. It was about business growth, and that's what it was about this morning. So I'll just bring that up as an example.
Yeah, and I do think like the true like root of Skool and what like if you're gonna get the most out of Skool, I think it's in networking calls.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's where the true that and IRL events, if you can manage those are trickier. I've only been
That's
to, like,
true.
a couple. Now I'm like I need to like I'm potentially in a position where I can start my own IRL thing.
Wow.
Or at least like and continue to foster, because there's an IRL event that happens in Denver.
Denver, Colorado, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm like, there's enough people in this general area for like stuff to be but it's still very small. Like the Denver IRL community is like still only like it's got 30 members, and like the meetups are between like 4. I think the max I've seen was like 6 or 7. So they're still very small.
I see. I have a question for you
Yeah.
because you're based in Colorado. So I wanted to let you know that I connected with a small presser based in Colorado. It's called Alternating Current Press. Have you heard of them?
No, I haven't. Who's that?
Yeah, they sponsor Black writers and Indigenous writers.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
not Black writers. So I was really grateful for them. So I connected with them on November, and I submitted my poetry collection called Transformation. So I'm just waiting to hear back from them at this point.
Interesting. My wife might be interested in that.
Yeah, you should talk. You can to check with that, and they have a website of their own, so you can check. You can look them up and see what they have to say. They have a small team. That's what I read about. So I know they have a small team of individuals, and it's a unique. That's what I've heard.
Yeah. I like that there's all those kinds of little opportunities out there if you can like find them of like
Yeah.
support and like help and like ways that you can get like resources. What was there's this line, there's no such like if you don't have the resources, you just need to become more resourceful.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's ideal, actually. That does make sense, actually. It
Right?
really
It's
does.
something I'm trying to learn because it's still I understand it intellectually, but I don't like feel
Mm.
like it's true.
Yeah, I get your point. That point of contention makes a lot of sense, though. It's worth doing. I think it's worth doing. I'll try to be more resourceful too. To be honest, that's something that I've lacked in my life lately. So I want to try and do that for myself too. I think that's a really good point. I
Yeah.
appreciate that perspective.
And it's a perspective I'm trying to fully adopt as well. It's when I try to keep
Nice.
reminding myself of it. It's like, yes, because I too lived, am moving out of living in this like scarcity fear based mindset, right?
Yeah,
Lived there for a very, very long time. Still, I'm in the transition. I'm like in between.
I understand. I feel you. Yeah, I remember. I was bullied a lot, and so I know the feeling of going through those experiences and having to come out on the other side. And I remember one of my uncles introduced me to martial arts movies, and it reminded me of like Bruce Lee and Jet Li, for example, and they're martial arts masters, and they've had actors that have had amazing careers in the past of their own volition. And I remember trying to stop
Yeah.
from the bullies from happening.
I pause for just a brief second. I'll be right back.
Of course, go ahead.
All right, I'm back.
And welcome back.
Where were we?
Oh yeah, I was talking about bullies. Yeah, and I remember having a bully in fourth grade and in sixth grade in elementary school in Washington D.C. when I was going to school there, and I feel like I had to defeat them. It was bad.
Oh,
It was harsh because I was being ridiculed and humiliated and things like that. And I only had one school friend. His name was Ariel. He was a great friend of mine, but I had school friends who I was walking down the halls and hang out with a little bit, but I didn't have school friends that were literally our specific classes. So that was the difference for me. And so I had to take care of myself. I realized that I had to take care of myself, and while I was at school, and that was important to me. And so I made sure to do that. That was vital for me and very pivotal in nature. So I did, and that was important to me. And it happened to me in middle school too. I had this large bully in middle school too. It was hard to believe. It was He was a massive guy. He was taller than I ever expected. But anyway, I forgot his name. But my previous, I remember the middle school name, the elementary school person's names. Their names were William and Demetrius, two different Billies that I had. But anyway, what I had fortunately in Middle schools, I had two friends who were trumpet players, and I was a trombone player,
Mm.
and I loved that opportunity. That was wonderful when I was in band class for 2 years, seventh and eighth graders. And in seventh grade, I had to deal with that bully, but we had time and experience on our side. We were working together as a team effort.
Yeah.
So we sat the bully, and so we had to enjoy it. We had the opportunity to still enjoy the rest of our lives, and that was a meaningful endeavor for us.
You know what I think is key there is actually the little group. This is what I've found is that one of the things that helps people get out of bullying is having their own little group of friends, right? If you
Yes.
find your people and you've got your, ride or die little friends, once I
Mm,
found mine in like middle school,
yeah.
I was like set, and like it didn't matter what anyone else was doing to me or what they were
Yes.
on about. Like I had my two, three, four, five friends, um,
Nice.
and we had our little thing, and we hung out every day. And once you have
Hmm.
that, like I think you're golden, right?
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. That makes perfect sense to me too. Yeah, I had friends of mine, and I had two other friends of mine, Wimu and Dave, and they were good friends of mine to this day. Actually, they're on Facebook Messenger,
Hmm.
so we still hang out every so often in terms of being online. So I appreciate that perspective. One of them is in California, Wimu. He's from South Korea. He has a wife and children in his life, and he's doing his own thing, of course. He's in California, and the other one lives in Spring, Texas. This is his wife and children nowadays, and he's doing his own thing, doing his due diligence in his own life too. And so I respect that very much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think ultimately that's what we want our little group of friends, little tribe that we got, and we can just
Yes,
go on and live our lives
yes, indeed.
and be ourselves and not
That's the case.
what
You
the
have to be
vast majority
yourself.
are thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? It reminds me of music because I love music with a passion.
Hmm.
And I was introduced to rock alternative music by a friend of mine in high school. His name is Kareem. And that was back in 10th grade. And I remember it specifically. He introduced me to rock alternative music. And I started watching VH1 and MTV music videos and stuff like that. And I listened to them on the radio as well. And I remember having the opportunity to actually go to a concert, the DC Chili Cook-Off
Hmm.
back in 1999. So it was a couple years later. We saw a lot of rock musicians, and it was amazing. It rained, but it didn't matter to us. It was pretty legit, and I enjoyed it fully. I still remember their names: the Goo Goo Dolls, Our Lady Peace, the Stroke Nine, and yeah, a couple of other bands that I didn't care about. But I love the other ones. Those are pretty. Vertical. The other one was Vertical Horizon. I remember
Hmm.
that. But anyway, I remember hanging out with in terms of music and enjoying it fully all the time. I used to go to concerts as well. I was in when I was in Columbus, Ohio. I was attending the Ohio State University in 2000 in October, and I went to my first concert on campus. And I went to see Matchbox 20. I don't know if you ever heard of them, but
I think I
and
have. Yeah.
yeah, I got to see them in concert, live in concert. That was pretty
Nice.
sweet. I enjoyed that. That was pretty cool. I did it. The only problem is I was by myself. I didn't have any friends yet. It was only 1 month. It was only 1 month, and so I just
Hmm.
had school friends that I was connecting with a little bit. But I did it for my own birthday because I
Right.
knew my birthday was in September 28th, and so I knew it was coming up in October. I was like, I had to do this as a belated birthday gift to
Hmm.
myself.
Right.
So that's what
Right.
I did. It was pretty cool.
I did that once where I just had I went to a concert solo for like a birthday present of mine. Actually, I've done it twice, and it was really good both times, actually.
Nice.
Um, One was a tiny hole in the wall rave session for an obscure Australian artist I'm obsessed with, and it was during his
Wow.
final tour um, before he like retired and did family stuff. He still makes music, but he doesn't tour anymore.
I see.
And it was Amazing. I had to stay up till 2 a.m., but it's the last time I've done that.
Yeah, no
I
reason to
was
do
like,
that
and
anymore.
I was in my 20s still, so I was like able to do it. But I was
I know the
like,
difference. Yeah, I don't do that anymore.
right,
I know the feeling. When I was in my 20s, I was able to do those kind of concerts too.
right.
I was. I remember I had a. I went to a concert, a night concert too in Washington D.C. with Creep, and it was pretty amazing concert. It was trying to remember. It was a European band. It was like I'm trying to remember his name, but that's okay. I'll remember it eventually. My apologies. But anyway, I know what it's like to do that in my 20s, but
Hmm.
yeah, I don't do that anymore.
Right. You gotta be in bed at a reasonable hour. Uh,
Yeah, it's important.
but I do love the like vibe and energy of just like a concert crowd. And
Yes.
like actually one of my favorite crowd, it's not an interaction, it's just like I love watching crowds, right? And seeing
Mm,
the way that humans interact in a crowd dynamic. I love watching
mm,
humans
mm.
in especially at like concerts. They're acting as like one entity, as a crowd, right?
That's right.
And I was at a Red Rocks concert um,
Wow.
uh, for Rez, who is an EDM artist,
Okay, EDM. Yeah.
and she performed hypnotism on the entire crowd, myself
Wow.
included, and it was the first time I'd ever been hypnotized in a way by just
Wow.
calming an entire EDM crowd with a song. It
Wow.
was
I can't imagine
painful
that.
to watch, truly,
Wow.
because they, built everything up, had like, wild EDM crowd jumping to music, whatever, and then you just
Yeah.
watched, like, as the song switched and she transitioned to it and like hit the right note at the right time, and just like you watched the calm spread out throughout the entire crowd, and then it hits me, and I'm like, oh, I just like need to relax now. I can't like not. And I didn't believe in
Wow.
hypnotism at the time. It was like, what is
Yeah.
this?
It didn't
So
make any sense, right?
it was crazy, but I was like, this is nice. I like this. It's calming.
It's a,
Uh,
calmness is a very important thing.
and then she just like brought us all back and like returned to the EDM thing. But it was just, and I'm like, I'm sure some people didn't notice it happened. Like, that's what's wild to me. It's because I was paying attention and like watching the crowd when it happened. I'm sure plenty of
Mhm.
people have been EDM and it like happened to them and and they didn't even notice, right?
Mhm.
Crazy.
Wow, that's epic.
So I do enjoy stuff like that. You can do some magic with music.
I agree. Yeah, I used to say as a personal philosophy that music is like a universal language for humanity. Yeah, that's my one of my personal philosophies about life. It makes a big difference for people. A lot of things that can be good for you in terms of positive aspects of music. I remember I took a there's one class that I took in high school, and I remember taking doing a writing assignments about the positive impacts of music. It's called music therapy. That's what it was called. Have you heard of music therapy?
Music therapy, maybe a little bit, but I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, yeah. I haven't been paying attention to it as of late, but it was all the rage back in the high school. I remember checking it out as a writing assignment because I started doing some research about it back in the day. So that was back in because I was in high school back in between 1996 and 2000, so 4 years, of course. I graduated after that, but anyway, um, yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think it was probably in the 10th or 11th grade. Yeah, one of those. I remember talking about music therapy, and it was pretty interesting. Just the idea of helping people when it comes to issues in in terms of therapeutic environments. That was the idea of music therapy, and it was like it was an ideal situation when people are having issues with depression and anxiety or things of that nature. It was a idea. It was an important idea for therapists to use to help people. And so I thought about that in terms of my own life because I mean, I didn't have any issues like that, but I did have social anxiety
Hmm.
when I was, so I know that feeling
Right.
in terms of other people, in terms of that experience. So I recognize that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was something that I understood.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there's like the more I look into like all this like how music influences us and how it's like I find that a lot of this is just not really understood,
Yeah,
right? We just don't know what exactly we're dealing with. At least I don't. I don't see people like there are people who've tapped into it and can like make stuff, but do they understand? Like here's the thing I've never understood is like why does music make us feel? Like it's
uh,
just sound on some level,
yeah, it is sound. That is correct.
but then something happens and then we feel something. And like I listen to EDM music. It's the closest you can get to music being actual noise. Like
See,
I'll fully
wow,
acknowledge that EDM pushes the boundary of what music the definition is, right?
that's true. Yeah,
The fact that it still works fascinates me.
that does make a lot of sense. That does. Electronic dance music. I remember it. Yeah, when I was mentioned to you at that time when I was with Kareem, and I was with the European artist. That was EDM music
Hmm,
actually. So that was my first time experiencing EDM music for the first time. So I know that experience myself.
right. And it's like it's honestly like trying to like bring it down to like its base like just rhythm and like the like some of I've seen are the base fundamentals of like what makes a good musical build and whatnot, and I've maybe looked into the structure of what makes a good EDM song versus a bad EDM song, right?
Yeah,
Because once you actually get into a thing, you can notice the nuance between what is just generically produced and what has intention behind it.
yeah, intention and value. Yeah,
Right.
that makes a lot of sense.
And I think actually to circle back to the original point, or not point, but like topic,
Yeah.
the inspiration and like how we like express ourselves.
Yes.
It's this attempt to express like a feeling or like this like I just had the word. This detail, this the intentionality behind it, behind the expression, behind the choice.
Yes.
I think that might be one of the keys.
Yeah, I like it.
Because I think
It's a lot to deconstruct.
it's my brain's slotting all the pieces together.
Hmm.
It's this maybe this is one of the like differentiators between like really good art is like the intention behind the detail and how it will impact. And I'm like, a lot of times we're thinking about how we'll impact others, but I think one of the most powerful artistic expressions is how we'll impact ourselves.
Yes, that's exactly right. I agree with that. Yeah, it reminds me of this one from one of my favorite rock alternative bands. They're called Incubus. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
I don't think so.
Okay, yeah, they're a band that was created in California back in the day. That was many years ago. It was like a generation ago, actually. I learned about them because they had this amazing album. It was called "Make Yourself." Imagine there's a song title called "Make Yourself," and I thought it was really interesting to
Yeah.
me. And I started listening to the album all the way through because I had never learned about it. It was back in high school, and so I watched their music album. They had a music album on MTV. It was one of those, and they had the song called. They had a couple of songs. One of them was called "Drive," and so the idea of driving into the way that allows you to make yourself fully and trying to create yourself, and that was an intriguing idea to me. And it reminds me of my own life, that my own sense of identity, how I can create myself into a new image and develop myself into grow and develop and change to a better version of myself. And that's what I decided to accomplish in my own life.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think one of the key takeaways I've taken from all of these is that identity is built and
Yes.
constructed. It's not found because
Yes.
everyone's like, I need to find my identity. I need to find myself. I'm gonna go all backpacking off in Europe and go find myself. And it's like,
Yeah, I've heard of that.
no, you just went to Europe and built yourself. You just didn't realize it.
That is the right call. I agree with you.
Right? And it's through this method, as far as I can tell, and like we all do this, but you can do it intentionally. Is we're going about our lives, and we come
Hmm.
across a thing, and we kind of like the thing, or we see someone doing a thing, and we're like, I like that. I see someone wearing a hat. I like that. Maybe
Hmm.
I'll try wearing a hat, and you try on a hat, and you go about your day, and you're like, I don't know, maybe the hat's not for me, and you try on a different thing, and maybe yours is the like, you get like this red jacket, and it's like, oh, that's your thing. I don't know. But like, and then you wear that, and you're like, ah, yes, this is my thing. I'm gonna like, and then you adopt it, and it becomes a part of your thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's this slowly building little piece by piece. If you add enough of these together, you get a unique, interesting combination that no one else has.
Yeah, exactly right. I like the sound of that. That's a beautiful thing, actually. It's the way I'm meant to be built too. I'm built. I built myself, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. I remember that back in high school. I mean, it was amazing to accomplish that. I could create myself into and develop and grow and be harmonious and have a lot of school. And I learned a lot about myself through my friendships. I built a lot of school friends in my life while I was in high school. There was a lot of people that I connected with. It wasn't I was never in any cliques
Mm,
at all, but I just
right.
met them in school, and it was pretty cool. I appreciate that, and I even went to my two different proms. I went to the high school. I went. I didn't have any. I didn't have any dates, but I was friends who were all together, and we enjoyed our times. It was pretty sweet.
Right.
Oh yeah. So I had a junior prom and senior proms that I went to back in the day. So I still remember them with the vision. It was this amazement actually because it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it a lot.
Very nice. Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, I
I had
think.
lots of music. There's a lot of music there, so
Oh
I
yeah,
remember
right. It helps a lot with all that.
that. That's why I brought that up.
But I mean, like high school is just a lab where people are building themselves. That's like middle school and high school is.
That's correct.
This is just a big box of people trying to figure out who they are.
That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
And then you dump them out into society and they are like, I guess I figured it out. Maybe. No, you haven't. None of us have. And I don't think we ever do
Yeah,
truly figure it out, right? Like it's always it's a perpetual process.
it is perpetual. I agree with you. Actually, it does make a lot of sense. Yeah, well, at least I've been able to do it through my poetry nowadays,
Right.
and I've learned a lot about myself, and to that when I the more I use my intuition to do my poetry, I feel like I can actually something just comes into my head, and I'm like, oh, I know exactly what I want to write about,
Mm.
and I just do it. Literally, that just happens, and out of nowhere, I feel like I have some kind of gift for writing poetry, and that's what it is, to be honest.
Yeah, there's this interesting concept I'm coming across where it's like, where does creativity come from?
Yes,
Inspiration and ideas,
yes,
genius and such.
yes.
Yeah, and as far as we can tell, it doesn't really come from us in the traditional material sense. It's some abstract, like, other outside of us place that
Mm-hmm.
has all this
Mm-hmm.
apparent, like, infinite knowledge, which I find is a wild concept, but it makes sense, which I find weird. Why does it make
Yeah,
sense and I
it
don't?
does.
I'm like, this is an insane idea, but it makes sense.
Yes. It
Though
is ironic to
I
me
did,
too.
so I studied physics in college, and the lesson I came away with, well, I came up with two. One, the more I know, the less I know. And two,
Yes.
the universe is under no illusion to make sense to you.
Wow, that's deep. I like it. That's a bit. That sounds visionary. To be honest, I like it. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I've always been obsessed with trying to understand the universe and why. Um, and I keep looking, and the answers, I get more questions. I just get more questions.
I like that. The more there's more questions than answers, and finding the answers is interesting. It's a very interesting endeavor, to be honest, and it's
Yes.
worth doing. Life is always worth doing, and that's what matters.
And I'm like, that's my like one of my drivers is just thirst for knowledge. I have an insatiable thirst for knowledge and
Yes.
information and understanding. So I try to understand as much as possible. Admittedly, there's this weird part of me that doesn't like the idea of knowing all the answers. There's like a point where like, if I got to the point where I knew everything, I'd be like, what now? What do I do now?
That is a great point. I agree with you, actually. I agree with you, actually, too. The more we know, the less there is to figure out. But actually, that's what matters. And I remember that I have a strong love of learning too, and it comes to my beliefs. I took I took a test. It's called Clifton Strengths Assessment. The career coach that I had last summer, and it was interesting. And I was learning. It was not learning about myself, and I was like, well, I know a lot of myself already, so I'm just curious what's that going to entail. And so I found out that I have a strong belief system. I have a strong sense of connectedness with other people and things like that. And so, and I have a strong love of learning and I've always been a bookworm and a cinephile, actually. Those are important things about me. I give you an example. So when I was a young child, I actually used to literally read the Webster's New Word Dictionary, the words. I literally used to do that just to learn about different words and synonyms and antonyms and the grammar and syntax, things like that. And I enjoyed it fully. And the other thing I used to read was the Lexicon Universal Encyclopedia. Can you imagine reading the encyclopedia? I used to do that for fun. And I became well-rounded as a child back then.
Right. That's a profound like understanding of words, and then understanding of concepts through the encyclopedia.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very interesting.
Thank you. And I also became a cinephile. I used to watch movies as a child, and I grew up watching movies and different kinds of movies like action, drama, comedy, romantic comedies, things like that. So I grew up on watching movies, and to this day, I watch movies a lot too when I get the chance. When I'm free, of course, when I'm not busy.
Right.
Movies and TV shows, I do that sometimes too.
Yeah, good stories.
Thank you.
And I do think stories is one of those through lines that I see everywhere. It's like that's in shows, that's in movies, that's in the like. This is one of my other obsessions is stories.
Storytelling, yes.
Yeah, and just like what makes a good story, how does one tell a good story, world building, how to create, an alternate reality.
Wow.
And those sorts of things. I ran D&D campaigns and my own
Dungeons and
homebrew
Dragons,
worlds.
yeah.
For like year-long campaigns.
Wow.
And I've successfully completed 2, which is actually super rare. Most campaigns die before they make it to an ending, or they end unsatisfactorily.
Wow.
And I had one
didn't know that.
where that's like a crowning achievement.
Congratulations. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think that might be the mark of a good storyteller or story, is can you stick the landing, the ending.
Nice.
The ending is the hardest part of any story, I think.
I agree with that. It does make a lot of sense. It's hard because you can do the beginning.
Yeah.
I can do beginnings myself as an example. So when I write poetry, there's always a beginning for me because I always create. I think about what I want the name of my poem to be. That's the first thing I think about. And I also have to think about what I have done already, because I've written a lot of poems already, and so it's important not to to do the same thing over and over again. So I think about different poems on purpose, and so when so for example, the most recent poem I wrote was called Nature. and it's about the natural phenomenon. That's what it's all about, actually. And I wrote it down, and I have a way of writing acoustic poems. I don't know if you know what acoustic means,
I
but
think I've heard
that
it before,
is
but I don't remember.
okay. So basically, it's the idea. Well, for me, what I do is use the first. There's multiple sentences that happens, as you know about when you in a very stanza, and so what I do is I use it for the first letter of every in the beginning of the sentence coincides and it coincides with the rest of the letters over time, and they actually create the word of the poem.
Oh, okay.
So
Right.
that's how it works,
Okay.
and I do it
Yeah.
on purpose.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'm familiar with that. I remember now.
That's good.
Okay. So, okay, yeah, very interesting. Actually, there's something you said caught my attention. I wanted to like maybe challenge it a smidge. You said you
Sure
didn't
thing.
want to repeat yourself. Didn't want to make the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, admittedly, why not? So I'm like, I think both methods are valid, right? The method of
Okay.
never repeat and do constantly new things. But I think the other method is do the same thing over and over again and constantly try and improve it.
Yes, improving is a good idea. Actually, I like the sound of that. To
And
be
like,
honest,
admittedly,
that's interesting.
like I've done so. One of the favorite ways I've run a campaign, a D&D campaign, was
Mhm.
episodically, where each session was a self-contained episode of the overall story. Whereas opposed, it's like a session where it's like a continuous story and you just like pick up where you left off. It's like you open up a book, you were reading for a little while, you close it. This one
All
I've
right.
designed over like a TV show, where each session you come in, it's like a brand new wipe, starting point town, same people, and maybe, but like for the most part, that was the thing. And I just got to practice doing a contained story in one session each time over and over and over again, and I got really good at it. So there's
Wow,
like
I
I
love
think
that.
aspects to each.
Okay. Thank you for that frame of reference. That's pretty good. I like it. That's interesting, actually. I may have to try that myself and see how it goes.
Right,
I'll let you know.
you maybe do like a month-long challenge, right, for a period of time. Because I've done this where like I did a month where I made a YouTube video each day. I don't care what it is, just make a video each day. And then I did, and I learned how to make good videos, and I can make them pretty quickly now. But I don't need
Nice.
to make them every day, and I don't need to be like that rigid about it. And then this month, I'm making a post every day in not my community,
Nice.
and I have to remind myself they don't need to be good. You just need to make posts, and you will get better over time. Practice.
I love that. Start practicing, and practice makes improvements. I like that.
So that's one of the things I'm trying to do more, because like I will often get in my head about like I need to craft the perfect post, and then it will be perfect, and then I can post. It's like, no, post 100 times, and then you'll have a good post.
That's good. That's interesting. I like that. All right, I'll try that out. I'll try that on for size and see how it works for me too.
Yeah, just as an experiment.
Yeah, experiments is interesting. Okay, I will do it.
Very nice. Well, we are coming up to the end of our hour,
All right.
but I have had a phenomenal conversation. This has been amazing. Very, very entertaining.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it so much too. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, this was great. I think I'll wrap there.